Reborn as a vending machine, I now wander the dungeon. That is the title of this anime. Reborn as a vending machine, I now wander the dungeon. And yes, that is a vending machine. A sentient vending machine with a face on it. So, people have told me that this is a good anime, that I should watch this anime, that this is funny, and that it's good. And you know what? If that's what people are saying, it probably is good. Maybe it is. It must have some good qualities if a lot of people are saying, hey, you know what? This is a good show. Why not? There are plenty of anime out there with wacky concepts that may sound inherently ridiculous on paper, but it's all about the execution, man. This could be a really funny, charming show. It could. It could be. But you know what, guys? I don't give a shit. You want to know why I don't give a shit? Well, part of it is that I'm drinking a canned cocktail, Club Tales, Long Island iced tea. And the can is half empty. So I'm feeling a good buzz right now. But besides that factor, this anime is from the Isekai genre, and I'm sick and tired of Isekai anime. I'm sick and tired of this genre, and I'm sick and tired of the endless number of anime released with the exact same shit behind it over and over again. Now you may think, are there other anime out there just like this one? Well, no, they don't involve a vending machine, but yes, there are other anime just like this one, where somebody is reborn in some way or reincarnated in some way from the real world and ends up in some medieval fantasy world. It's called the Isekai genre. Now, for those of you out there who do not eat, sleep, and breathe anime as often as I do, this may be new information to you. And if it is, well, allow me to enlighten you. Pull up a chair, grab your favorite toxic chemical, and let's have a little chit chat about the Isekai genre, shall we? It's a genre of anime that's actually been around a very long time. In fact, I don't know how far back it goes entirely. I don't know exactly what would count as the first Isekai anime, but they all share basically one fundamental plot element, and that is this. You have a main character of some kind, male, female, doesn't matter, who is living in the real world, our world, the mundane world, and somehow, some way, in some circumstance, in most modern isekai anime, it's usually somebody dies and gets reincarnated or some shit. But it doesn't have to be that specifically. It could be any number of circumstances. They could step into a portal. They could fall down a well. I don't even know if they're all necessarily isekai. Like this one over here. What is this? What the hell is this? I've been killing slimes for 300 years and maxed out my level. That's the title of this one. I don't know if this is an isekai. I've never watched it. I just know that it has a title as stupid as most modern isekais. It sounds very like RPG-esque. And I like RPGs. I'm not shitting on RPGs. I'm just saying they all sound like this. They all sound like they have ridiculous titles that only some D&D fucking... To the point where there's so many of these damn isekai shows that some of them even have isekai in the fucking title because they want you to know right off the bat that that's what they are. They're so excited to be an isekai show that they put it in the title. So this is Isekai Cheat Magickin. Nishimura Taichi is a typical average high schooler, and Azuma Rin is a beautiful woman with the build of a model and excellent reflexes. The two live a normal high school life until one day They're suddenly enveloped in. Wait, we gotta go to details here. We gotta read the whole synopsis. What is this? Enveloped in a mysterious magic circle and transported to an unknown land. That world is full of terrifying monsters, beastmen, dwarves, elves, the usual bullshit, and many other races right out of fantasy. In order to survive in this new world, Taichi and Rin decide to become adventurers. But when they take the aptitude test, they discover they both possess cheat level magic. So that's what separates this one from all these other tired fucking anime from this genre. So I'm a spider, so what? That's the title of this one. And again, I'm gonna read the synopsis here. I, the protagonist, was just an ordinary high school girl, but suddenly I was reincarnated. Yeah, you're gonna see that pop up a lot. Everybody gets reincarnated as a spider monster in a fantasy world. Not only that, but I awaken in a dungeon filled with vicious monsters. Armed with only my human knowledge and my overwhelming positivity, I'm forced to use spider webs and traps to defeat far stronger monsters just to stay alive. So begins the labyrinth survival story of a girl with incredible mental strength living as one of the lowest ranked beasts. So that's the hook of this one. She's a spider. So there you go. um, I mean, that might make them sound all very different, but that's the thing. They're really not. So then we have That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. And this is one of the more popular ones. Again, this is another show that people have told me, Passion, you gotta watch this, man. It's good. It's good. I know you don't normally like Isekai, but this one's good. This one's better than the rest. And yeah, I have watched a little of this show, and it's fine, I guess. But here's my problem with it. I'm gonna read it right now. The synopsis. Here we go. Corporate worker Mikami Satoru is stabbed by a random killer and is reborn to an alternate world, but he turns out to be reborn as a slime. Thrown into this new world with the name Rimuru, he begins his quest to create a world that's welcoming to all races. Okay, so again, you see what I'm saying here. We got another story about someone who is reincarnated as something else in a fantasy world. It's just like they all do this saturated genre. That's the thing. There's too many of these shows. There's too many. Shield Hero, that's another one. Drugstore in Another World. Reiji Kiro was a corporate wage slave who did nothing but work all day, every day. On a typical day of walking to work with a hollow hook on his face, he suddenly found himself in the forest of another world. Yeah, see, like, they all have the same thing. Like, it's. Look, I get that there are other anime genres out there that follow tropes. I get that. But, like, this shit just. Like, it's so much of the same shit. Like, there's a million of these. Look at this. Didn't I say to make my abilities average in the next life? For some reason, they're obsessed with reincarnation in these shows. They all involve somebody, like, dying and getting Kurihara Misato was a little more capable than other high school girls, and as a result, she was always alone and couldn't live her life the way she wanted. When she was reincarnated in another world after a tragic accident, she wanted a chance to make normal friends and live a normal life. So she asked God for one thing: give me abilities that are average for that world. So yeah, you get the gist. She ends up in a fantasy world where she has abilities that everybody else has, and she blends in better, and blah, blah, blah. These characters get to, like, be the people they couldn't be in the real world, which would be appealing to some people, I guess. But man, I'm just tired of this genre. Like, and then you have stuff like El Hazard, The Wanderers, that came out in the 90s. Now, this is an isekai show as well, but, like, this was way before this genre got out of hand, and there was like a million of them. And they all kind of had the same feeling. They all kind of started blurring together. Like, this was before there were too many of these freaking shows. This is a good show. I actually recommend El Hazard. But, like, if you watch this, you can tell this was before there was, like, hundreds of these freaking shows. Like, when it was still a fresh idea. So, like, here's the synopsis here. Makoto always upstaged Jinai without trying, which only aggravates the delusional rivalry that Jinai has concocted within his own mind. However, when Jinai attempts to sabotage Makoto's newest invention, the machine creates a dimensional rift and throws Makoto, Jinai, and several others from their school into a strange new world that is filled with amazing creatures, beautiful sights, and dangerous enemies. If they ever want to get home, it's going to take wits, courage, and a lot of luck. It's also a weird thing about old isekai shows is the characters who end up in these other worlds, they always want to get back home, and they do end up getting back home, which says a lot about what isekai used to be back in the 90s or whatever. Is that like it wasn't as much of a self-insert or a wish fulfillment show. It was more like more of a what if scenario. Like, what would you do if you ended up in a strange fantasy world and had to find a way back home to your real world? It wasn't like, oh, what if I could just start my life over somewhere else in another world? It was a different vibe, you know? And I think it works better that way. Because Isekai sucks. Sucks balls, Konosuba. Now this was, I would argue this was right before like this genre really started going off the fucking rails, and there was like 5 million of them. It was like right around the time that they started really getting popular. So we were still at that crossroads where like there wasn't a trillion of them. There was like a million, but not a trillion. You know what I'm saying? So I got into Konosuba because I was like, well, this is fun because this show parodies the genre. It makes fun of isekai. No, not Grimgar. What the fuck is that? That's not what I clicked on. Okay, Konosuba. This show is funny, and I'm not saying it's like the best isekai show. I haven't watched enough isekai shows to know if it's the best one or if it's like better than the vending machine show, or I didn't watch enough of I got reincarnated as a slime or whatever to know if that's better. I don't know. I just know I really liked Konosuba because it really toyed with how stupid the genre kind of is and had fun with it. And yeah, I liked it, but even though they say there are other shows that are good, like, okay, after a traffic accident, Kazuma Sato's disappointingly brief life was supposed to be over. But he wakes up to see a beautiful girl before him. She claims to be a goddess, Aqua, and asks if he would like to go to another world and bring only one thing with him. Kazuma decides to bring the goddess herself, and they are transported to a fantasy world filled with adventure ruled by a demon king. Now Kazuma only wants to live in peace, but Aqua wants to solve many of this world's problems, and the demon... Blah, blah, blah. That makes it sound like a more serious show, but it's not. It's very funny. It's very goofy. Um, and it makes fun of the genre. Now, at this point, given how many of these damn shows there are, I know there are other shows like this that do poke fun of the genre, but at this point, because Konosuba came out like 8 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, at this freaking point, I don't really care anymore. Because there's so many of them that, like, that's not enough to get me to watch more of these shows. I'm so tired of the genre. Okay, so here's another one. This one's brand new. This one just came out. Villainess, level 99. I may be the hidden boss, but I'm not the demon lord. I don't even know if this is an isekai. It probably is. I don't even know if it is, but let's find out. How much you want to bet it is? So here we go. This college kid wants nothing more than a quiet life. So when she's reborn, there you go, as Yumilia, the hidden villainess of an otome RPG, she's not exactly thrilled. Still yearning for peace, she abandons her evil duties to live a more discreet life until her gamer side kicks in and she accidentally reaches level 99. Now everyone suspects that she's the infamous Demon Lord. What future awaits her? It's more of that. That's another trope in these isekai shows, especially the modern isekai shows, is the main character is usually somebody who's like kind of desensitized to all this fantasy stuff when they get transported away or reincarnated because they played a bunch of RPGs, because of course they have. It's like the audience, you know, it's a character that's going to be like the most relatable to an otaku like myself. And I get this, I sort of get the appeal of that, but there's so many of these goddamn shows. Here's the thing, I'm not saying I hate isekai as a genre. It's a good concept for a show. And obviously you can do a lot with it because that's why there's so many of them. But there's always too much of a good thing. You can always have too much of a good thing. You know what I mean? Aside from booze, you can never have too much booze. That's why I'm always drinking that. But when it comes to other things in life, anything else, you can never have too much. Or no, that's not right. You can have too much. There is such a thing as too much. Now, one of my favorite anime of all time is Vision of Escaflowne, which is an isekai. Technically, that's an isekai. It's another show from the 90s, back before there were too many of these damn shows. Or even something like Inuyasha, another classic iconic show, could be considered an isekai as well. But again, these shows felt more sincere with the concept. We've gotten to a point where there's so many of these damn shows. It's such an overly saturated genre that I feel like every time I'm browsing for anime, for something new to watch, I have to browse past like 40,000 of these before I get to something good. Like, like there's too many isekai, man. It's time to move on. The 2010s was like rife with these shows, and the fact that we're in 2024 now and there's still more of them coming out, just as many as before. I'm like, could we just move on? Could we? Isekai must die. It's time for Isekai to die.